So, about the oligarchy controlling America. As many of you know, Biden recently stepped away from his presidential role. In his exit speech, he released a bombshell statement regarding the dangers of an incoming oligarchy, which may have been a day late and dollar short. But that is not to say there is no truth in what he said. Analyzing his speech requires a look into the past and how the people of the United States once came together to fight the uber-wealthy who aimed to keep the proletariat in a steadfast chokehold. Now, let's take a look back on a seemingly forgotten, perhaps repressed period of America. Enter the rise of the robber barons. The late 19th century, known as the Gilded Age, saw the rise of industrial magnates like Andrew Carnegie, John D. Rockefeller, and J.P. Morgan. These quote-unquote robber barons amassed immense wealth and influence through industries such as steel, oil, and finance, often exploiting workers and using monopolistic practices to stifle competition. The most well-known of these practices being vertical integration, taking control of various stages of production or supply that are necessary to create a final product, and horizontal integration, acquiring or merging with other companies in the same industry to reduce competition and expand market share. Additionally, workers, including children, labored under harsh conditions in factories, mines, and railroads for low wages and long hours. Labor strikes, such as the Great Railroad Strike of 1877, erupted in response to these conditions. Finally, political machines like Tammany Hall in New York City dominated local and state politics, using graft and patronage to maintain power. The federal government was often seen as complicit or ineffective in addressing the abuses of big business. So what happened next? Early reforms and labor movements. Labor unions were the first big thorn in the side of the elites. Groups like the American Federation of Labor, AFL, founded in 1886, gave workers a voice. These weren't just a bunch of people complaining about their jobs, they were men and women who demanded better pay, fewer hours, and basic safety in the workplace. Their strikes and protests weren't just a nuisance, they were a direct challenge to the power structure. And then there were the farmers. Often forgotten in the glitzy stories of American cities, squeezed by railroad monopolies and predatory lending, these folks said, enough. The Populist Party of the 1890s was their answer. They didn't just shake their fists, they wrote down their demands. Regulate the railroads, tax the rich, and let us vote for our own senators. By 1913, with the 17th Amendment, they got that last one. Moving on, the Progressive Era and overthrowing the oligarchy. Sort of. The Progressives came in swinging at the turn of the 20th century. If you've heard of the Sherman Antitrust Act of 1890 or the Clayton Antitrust Act of 1914, these were the tools used to take some of the fangs out of the monopolies. But don't think the oligarchs just rolled over. It took muckraking journalists, heroes like Ida Tarbell and Upton Sinclair to drag their dirty laundry out into the sunlight. And then there was Theodore Roosevelt. Love him or hate him, you've got to respect a president who looked big business square in the eye and said, not on my watch. His square deal wasn't just talk, it was action. Fairness for workers, consumers, and businesses, not just the billionaires calling the shots. But the real pushback came during the Great Depression. When the whole house of cards came tumbling down in the 1930s, it was President Franklin D. Roosevelt who told the oligarchs to take a back seat. The New Deal wasn't perfect, but it brought Social Security, unemployment insurance, and stronger protections for unions. Strikes like the Flint sit-down strike of 1936-37 weren't just footnotes, they were pivotal battles that forced the elite to listen. So, what did all of this achieve? For a while, it looked like the oligarchs were losing. Progressive taxation and labor laws helped redistribute wealth, creating a strong middle class and giving ordinary people a shot at stability. But let's not get too comfortable. The fight against concentrated power is a marathon, not a sprint. As we sit here in the aftermath of Biden's exit, it's worth remembering that the fight isn't over. The tools are still there, unions, regulations, and grassroots movements. It's just a question of whether we'll pick them up again. Interested in learning more? Scroll down to the description for links to all movements and people listed in the video, and consider watching some of my other content to gain some insight on similarly prescient topics and discussions. If you enjoyed, consider leaving a like and subscribing. It really helps. Any comments and changes to the content or other ideas for topics that you want covered are also greatly appreciated. Thanks for watching.